things that the current administration, the government, will be doing to guarantee that a lot of these young people can see a future? Because from my conversation with them, they don't seem to see a future anywhere.
Okay, so what we have to look forward to from the legislature, we take the president's agenda and we put it under the microscope, and then we pass the budget, which is the fiscal tool for that. And we have background conversations. And in our background conversations, we have to talk about youth empowerment. One of the things we think should happen is that there should be some money allocated to each district to deal with three major things: education, healthcare, and youth empowerment. If the government buys that idea, I think you will begin to see that some of the rehabilitation that needs to occur with youth will begin to occur.
Look at education and youth empowerment, and you then think about the fact that poverty is a major issue. 51% of the population of the nation, they're below the poverty line, multidimensional kind of poverty. What in that kind of money? I don't know what amount you've approved for as a law now. To spend, what in that amount of money do you think
you need to be able to give them work, and you need to be able to give them hope in terms of a productive support system as one of our social safety net. One of the things government has to, okay, in great terms of stress, is staying in the gap. Something that give them their own dignity, that this money that I'm spending is my money that I earned. Okay, when you do that, when you raise a man or a woman's dignity, you begin to give them hope for the future, and you give them an inspiration to begin to do things for themselves. So we need to move from that dependency, but to move from the dependency of either begging or drugs or whatever way they make a living, we need to provide a fiscal space for them to be able to do that. What amount it takes, I'm not sure, but we have no choice but to develop within the interim a welfare state that takes care of their needs, and then we can turn them over to the private sector.
So what kind of numbers? Give us an idea of numbers, budgets that you think the government has put on the table that you think will at least scratch the surface or create an impact.
Okay, so government has not put any numbers on the table yet because we just sent the budget back yesterday. We have said we think $1 million per district, which are 73 districts in the country. Maybe in the beginning, $1 million may be too much per district, but then we will have a negotiated way out to be able to discuss what you spend annually on a district, and that amount will increase yearly as we do the budget and in accordance with the revenue projections. So we say do 10% of the budget every year to go directly to the districts to have these kind of impacts.
So when it comes to the issue of job creation, what are the things that you expect the government to do that will create jobs for a big number, sizable chunk of number of young people?
Okay, so the reason why we broke it down districts is because then lawmakers have oversight to be able to monitor how government money is spent. So we do private-public partnerships. So we come to you in this district, maybe you own a printing press. How many persons can you afford to employ? You probably only 5 persons. We can tell you, say, look, can you create a second shift or a third shift and hire an additional 5? And those 5 persons will be paid through government support. Okay, so you have 5 persons that are coming on to boost your business because now you can create an additional shift where you couldn't do it before. Your efficiency and productivity increase. So it helps you, it helps the youth who is employed with you, and the government who's providing the support. If your business model increases, if your revenue increases, there will be at some point where you will be able to afford to take these people on, maybe 3 to 5 years down the road, where you will no longer support for them. So when we develop that kind of model with the private sector, we will do well. Another thing we can do directly, a few years ago, the Ellis government created something called the Beach and Waterways Program. That was direct government support. It hired thousands of youth, okay, just to do something simple, clean the beaches. Sometimes it's just about cleaning 2 to 3 miles of beachway in front of your house or in your neighborhood. And that was very effective. And I think this government intends to keep it up. But that employed a whole lot of youth. It kept the beaches clean and livable and enjoyable. So these are the kinds of ideas you can use to bring a whole lot of youth under the ambit of productivity, hope, and vision for the future.
Yeah, I love numbers, and it helps to enable one to measure, to look at what you're doing and be able to put a marker down that this is where you're going. So help me understand, in terms of a timeline, do you anticipate that in the next 6 years, you will be able to wipe out 5%, 10% of those below the poverty line and bring them out of poverty? What kind of numbers do you hope that your legislature, working well with the executive, will be able to get something that take at least a certain percentage? And what percentage do you anticipate?
Okay, so we anticipate, if our vision of how the budget should perform, right, between $500,000 to $1 million per district, on the average over the 6 years, I'm sorry. We expect that there could be a corresponding reduction of 5 to 10%.
Year on year or over a period of 6 years, cumulatively.
Yeah.
I was looking at some of the numbers. It showed that the overall literacy, especially amongst the males, the boys, is about 48%, those below the literacy level that you would expect according to UNESCO. The girls seems to not be doing too badly. I can see 24%. What is it that you think we need to do? Because the people I spoke with seem to have more girls in certain areas in Monrovia than you have boys, and you begin to wonder, what is the level of education and what are you doing to guarantee that education becomes one key area that you use to lift people out of poverty?
Okay, so as I said previously, the first thing we have to do is to ensure that the educational system has quality that will serve these needs, that will be able to educate these children, these boys and girls. Oftentimes, people graduate from high school, they can barely read or write. So we need to fix that first. And in fixing that, we need to make sure the cost of education, the cost of going to school, is one that the government has to bear. And there has to be, from first to maybe ninth grade, compulsory education. You know, people have to go to school. You can't find a child in the street hawking and just pass them by. You have to know why they are in the street hawking during school hours. You need to make those interventions. The Ministry of Gender and Social Protection need to make those kind of interventions to ensure that these school-age children are in school. So that's the first step. Then next, you have to deal with, how do you, once people have the correct education, how do you to have a beneficial living? A lot of times, the reason why you see that affects boys more than girls is because oftentimes in the society, girls are more protected. So they have a little tendency to stay at home more, to be under parental guidance more. Boys tend to get out earlier because they are for making a living, to ensure that they too have a family, to make sure that they too have a livelihood. So when they do that, they tend to abandon education opportunities for some kind of work, oftentimes in the informal sector of the economy.
Okay. Well, just before we wrap up, because it's meant to be looking at the issue of girl children. There are some of them who struggle in early life. So what is this government doing to ensure This is an issue across Africa.
Sure.
The girl child don't get the level of support that is required. So you wonder, what is there a specific agenda that you have to help the girl child in Liberia?
Okay, so about 4 years ago, we put in place um, domestic violence legislation, which is more than about just domestic violence. It's about how the home is managed to improve the possibility of success for girls and young children, especially female. We need to go into the implementation and support system stage of that legislation to ensure that we actually provide the support for our girls, children in the home, outside of the home when they are in school, and in society at large. So the legislation is in place. We need money to make sure it's implemented correctly. If we do that, you will find that the issues that girls have, as you say, all around Africa will be minimized. We cannot ignore the fact that generally we are chauvinistic people, okay, and that's unfortunate. To break those barriers down will take time. That's why our government has to provide the support system necessary through the legislations we've already passed into law, okay, that requires funding to do so.
Okay, I spent about 20 years of my own life in the United Kingdom, and fortunately, I can recall more than a handful of people that I say are my Liberian friends in London. What are you doing to engage your that they are doing now through diaspora Nigerians? Is that the same in Liberia?
That's exactly the same. The transfers from, there's a problem though when you come to diaspora Liberians giving back, coming back to Liberia to try to contribute. Very position in Western societies, oftentimes you still have mortgage, you still have car notes, you still have some
My questions. These are questions that I got asked by young Liberians. One of them was a young man that we interviewed at the church service who was asked the question, How do you feel about this government? He expressed himself, and then he was asked, what hope do you have for the future in terms of this new government?
For me, as a what I hope to see is that he empowering the youth in, like, for example, I'm a electrical engineering student, and you don't see more job opportunities for with the engineers in Nigeria. That's why more people go out to go and get foreign engineers who come do the job. So, in my own field, I hope that there will be a lot of opportunities for us, the young engineers coming up.